Hi, and welcome to Friday Friends. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Carly, and we're Next Chapter Home Team.
This week we're with Nicki Smith of Equity Resources, and we're going to talk about buying a home you really want.
When Nicki first came in, we were talking about kids and why this season is so busy right now for you and your children.
Yeah, my son plays hockey. He plays up in Detroit, so it's quite a drive. My daughter is into karate and softball, so I tend to be a little bit busy with their extras.
Great, it's a full-time job, just getting them to where they need to be.
Yeah, I always have the laptop available in my briefcase, you know.
Good thing most of the work we could do sometimes can be done from the phone, right?
Always.
Nicki, we're going to talk about buying the home you really want. With rising interest rates, the pre-approval amounts that people are getting might not get them the house that they really want. So what are some different ways that we can make some adjustments so that the house they really want, that might be a little higher than their pre-approval, they could still get?
There's 5 things that I think are an option for people. 1 would be the 2-1 rate buy down. 2 would be the recast. 401k withdrawals, adjustable rate mortgages, those are making a comeback, and down payment assistance programs.
So tell us a little bit about the buy down.
The 2-1 rate buy down is basically instead of a seller reducing their sale price $10,000 to try and get interest for a buyer to be enticed to buy their home, you can actually offer to reduce their interest rate by 2% the first year, 1% the second year, and then year 3 through the end of the term, it stays the same. So it gives them a much cheaper payment for those first 2 years while we're waiting for rates to come back down a little bit. Instead of reducing a purchase price, let's say $10,000, which would change a payment maybe $15 to $20, it could, 2% could make a difference of like $150 to $180 a month.
So this is a great option both for buyers and sellers, because sellers are still maybe getting the purchase price they're hoping for instead of a giant reduction.
Correct.
And the buyer is able to have a more affordable payment because the interest rate has been reduced, so that payment looks a lot better, because payments don't change a whole lot when you come down a couple thousand or even 10,000. They don't really change that much, but interest rate can really make a difference.
You could put it in the agent remarks that seller is willing to do a 2-1 buy down. You use the seller concessions for a 2-1 buy down versus closing costs.
You have to specify if the seller's concessions goes to the buy down or goes to closing costs.
Yes, there's actually 2 things that you need to do. 1, in the contract, there's a little section, everybody's contract's a little bit different, where you put in there side and 2-1 buy down. Then when it comes to the closing, you physically have to have the seller and the buyer sign a form that states that they're using these funds for that specific reason.
Okay.
Because we have to put those funds into an escrow account where we divvy it on a monthly basis based on that particular contract. Recast is another option. What that is it allows a buyer to put less money down until they sell their house. So right now we are seeing more back-to-back closings, but in a market where things are a little bit more tight and sellers don't necessarily want to do a back-to-back closing, recast is perfect. It allows you to put 5% down, and then after the fact, when you sell your house, put a large sum down to reduce the principal balance, and they will reset your payment one time on that principal reduction as if you started it that way from the very beginning. Now, the one little thing about recast that's a little bit different than when you start is when you put 20% down when you buy a house, you don't have to pay PMI. However, when you do a recast, you have to have 22% in order to reduce and take care of that PMI less than 2 years. So when you do the recast, you have to put a little bit more down, but that allows you to, let's say, sell your house a month after you buy it.
So in this market, when it's sometimes difficult to get a contingent offer accepted, we can use this recast option. Hey, I can buy the house, and even if the payment is a little bit more right now, once I sell, that payment's going to come down. So it gives us a little more leeway and timing to make it a more comfortable, smooth, less stressful sale.
Absolutely.
You had also mentioned 401k withdrawal.
So on a 401k withdrawal, a lot of people don't realize that they can actually sometimes take a withdrawal that's short term. So if, let's say, they only need it for a short time while they're getting ready to sell their house, we pull out 20%, they avoid PMI. It allows them to sell and then pay back without any type of penalty as if they never took it at all. Others, depending on, and I say this as age, depending on the time frame in your life, they can do a withdrawal to basically put it down and not have to pay it back. Other people do payments on those things. It just depends on what your investment is set up for.
Because it can help them get in the house now, and then they can work on paying more into their 401k as they grow in their professional life.
Correct. Another option for people is to do an adjustable rate mortgage. I know back in the past we were very against these. However, we inevitably know interest rates are going to come down within the next year or two. Not going to continue to climb at the rate they have been this last year. So an adjustable rate will give you a lower interest rate for a time frame. Let's say it's 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. It is fixed for that amount and then it adjusts thereafter based on whatever the prime rate is. Some contracts can adjust up to 2 to 4% depending on which particular one you choose. So you have to be careful and cautious of that. You do also have to understand with an ARM that you are going to inevitably refinance. Some companies like mine are offering reduction in closing costs at that time when you do refinance. So that way it's not such a big shock to the system to pay those additional closing costs. OFA is Ohio's down payment assistance program. There's several different tiers. They give reductions on interest rates, they give reductions on down payments, things of that nature. They have a reduction in interest rate for Homes for Heroes, grants for grads, and a first-time buyer. They also have Next Home, which is somebody that is not necessarily a first-time buyer that can also get grant money. They offer anywhere from 2.5% to 5% down for grant money. Those are great. MISHDA would be the Michigan down payment assistance, where depending on the area, you can have anywhere from $7,500 to $10,000 for down payment money. So that's a really great program as well.
Those are really great options for buyers who are looking for some help. Do either of those programs, do they have to pay those monies back at any point?
If they sell within the first 5 to 7 years, depending on which particular grant program that they have, they would have to pay back a portion of it or sometimes the full amount. However, if they are past that deadline on what their contract states, no, it is absolutely forgivable.
So a great option for someone who might be in their house for even 3 years, because even if you sell then to move on to your next house, they could maybe only pay a portion back, which could just come from the proceeds of the sale, hopefully.
Nikki, thank you so much for talking about some tips on how some of our buyers can get the house that they want.